Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The Fugitive is an American crime drama television series that was created by Roy Huggins. It aired on ABC from September 1963 to August of 1967. The early episodes always began by saying the name, Dr. Richard Kimball, the destination, Death Row State Prison, the irony, Richard Kimball is innocent. The television networks had never aired anything like this on television at all. As soon as the show premiered in 1963, the audiences were instantly hooked. Here we were introduced to a hero who was not a lawman, rather on the run from the law. And it wasn't a white-collar crime like tax evasion. He was pegged for murder. This week-to-week action, as Kimball hopped around the country on the lam, intrigued viewers. But it was the ongoing mystery that kept them coming back. If Kimball didn't kill his wife, who did? Americans had to wait 4 years for the thrilling climax. Other dramas of the time wrapped up their plots neatly in 1 hour. This tale took 120 episodes, but this shocking finale was well worth the wait. It's no wonder that The Fugitive has stuck in the mind of the public. David Janssen starred as Dr. Richard Kimball, who is a physician who's wrongfully convicted of his wife's murder, and he's sentenced to death. En route to death row, Dr. Kimball's train derails over a switch, allowing him to escape and begin a cross-country search for the real killer, a one-armed man played by Bill Reich. At the same time, Richard Kimball is hounded by the authorities, most notably the police lieutenant, Philip Gerard, played by Barry Morse. Now, the scene that kind of set everything in motion is the train crash scene. And by Hollywood standards, those do not come cheap. So the producers lifted footage from an old flick that they had, The Young in Heart, that starred Douglas Fairbanks Jr. Not only did the movie feature some nifty, futuristic cars, the characters survived a train derailment on a bridge. Series creator Roy Huggins, who also did Maverick and the Rockford Files, repeatedly denied that this series had been inspired by the real case of Sam Shepard, who was a doctor accused of murdering his wife in 1954. After 10 years in prison, he was acquitted of the crime. Make of that what you will, but there are some really strong similarities. Ongoing narratives are the norm for modern television. In fact, it's a rarity to find a drama in episodic form like The Twilight Zone or Star Trek. Back in the day, if you missed an episode, you could easily tune in the following week and not miss a beat. You see, it just had to be that way because there weren't recording devices. The Fugitive boldly asked, and demanded really, that audiences tune in every single week. It told a different contained tale each episode, but the ongoing plot with the one-armed man and Lieutenant Gerard keeps viewers on their toes. The network was initially really skeptical to even try such a concept. It blazed a trail for many similar structured shows like The X-Files. After 4 years of being on the air, Kimball finally confronts the one-armed man, high atop a carnival tower. As brilliant and gripping and groundbreaking as the show was, it did recycle a good deal. As I mentioned, they recycled the train wreck, but there was a far more subtle reuse done on the show. Keen listeners can probably pick it up. The music cues from The Outer Limits and The Twilight Zone were pulled out of the library to accompany Kimball on his run. Music from 12 O'Clock High and Branded were also used in the series. At the show's conception, Kimball began his journey from his home state of Wisconsin. However, writers and producers soon realized that Wisconsin didn't execute killers. So Kimball's backstory was shifted a couple of states over to Indiana. His hometown, as can be seen in his wanted poster, was Stafford, Indiana. However, in the first season's episode, Glass Tightrope, Kimball's hometown is listed on a poster as Beloit, Wisconsin, so they didn't entirely clean up their mistake. According to Barry Morse, after completing the first show, he was walking up the road with David Janssen. As they talked, he asked him, "Do you think we'll get any more than a couple of weeks' worth of work out of this show?" Little did he know how popular this was going to become. A running gag for the show had Kimball staying in the rundown Edmond Motel in many different episodes. This was due to many scenes being filmed on the studio backlot, where the art director had created a standing set of a typical downtown street, including the false front entrance to the Edmond Hotel. This gave the impression that Kimball crisscrossed the country and that every major American city had a Fleabag Edmond Hotel in which Kimball would find lodging. Now you can find a ton of famous faces in this show. Star Trek fans can find their beloved Enterprise crew, people like DeForest Kelley and William Shatner. You'll also see people like Charles Bronson, Ron Howard, Kurt Russell, Leslie Nielsen, Suzanne Plachette, Ted Knight, Carol O'Connor, and Mickey Rooney, plus dozens of other celebrities who turn up in Kimball's path. Now, David Janssen, the lead in the series, was born in March of 1931. His first film part was at the age of 13, and by the age of 25, he had appeared in nearly 20 films. He also served 2 years as an enlisted man in the U.S. Army. During his Army days, he became close friends with fellow enlistees Martin Milner and Clint Eastwood while posted at Fort Ord, California. Now, February 13th, 1980, he died of a heart attack in the early morning hours at his home in Malibu. He was only 48 years old. He was buried at Hillside Memorial Park Cemetery in Culver City. There was a massive amount of people that showed up for his funeral. Suzanne Plachette, who guest starred on the show, did his eulogy, all at the bequest of Janssen's widow. Everybody in Hollywood loved this guy, and they called him one of the hardest working actors in L.A. They said he would work 14 hours a day, and he kept doing that right up until his death. So you understand now why so many people showed up to honor him at his funeral. Take a look back at the great show, The Fugitive. It's always a fun watch. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.